From the National Weather Service in Raleigh, it's your 5 p.m. Monday Tropical Storm Isaias briefing update. And this will be our last scheduled webinar, but we will do additional webinars or briefings as needed for near-term updates. So anyway, just wanted to put that out there up front for anybody who's for those watching live and those who watch after the fact on YouTube. At this point, it's not the end of our briefings, but our briefings will take a little bit of a different format. In other words, instead of these multi-slide PowerPoint briefings, we'll just be bringing shorter updates as we are now moving into sort of the heart of the event. All right. So here is our latest hurricane and tropical storm watches and warnings. We do have hurricane warnings for Pender County coastal and southward, and that's the brighter shade of red, I guess, and the darker, more maroon color. Those are tropical storm warnings. So everything's in warning status at this point in time. No real changes with the hazards: wind, flooding rain, river flooding, and tornadoes. So we're basically in that tornado threat period right now. In fact, I believe there was just a watch issued. Let me double check that. Yeah, tornado watch has recently been issued for southeast North Carolina. I'll show that here in just a minute. So basically right behind me here in Operations Center, I've got folks who are watching the radar and making sure that anything that's rotating, if it looks threatening like it could produce a tornado, we'll be issuing tornado warnings as needed. And really that could happen just about anywhere, but especially along and east of I-95. All right, and then of course, really no changes with the expected rainfall: 2 to 4 inches, 4 to 6 along I-95, and then the runoff from that will cause flooding, river flooding eventually, and some stream and creek flooding. And then again, we are expecting a swath of pretty gusty winds. As the center moves up through the area, so wind, rainfall, flash flooding, river flooding, and tornadoes. All right, so the update is as of going live here. Unfortunately, my system didn't pull in the latest advisory, but basically not a whole lot of change to the track. Let me just go ahead and pull over onto the display screen here. A live radar, and you can see it's very well defined. There's the center there, just southeast of Charleston. And what's interesting is how this inner core, if you will, or this eye wall band, if you will, starting to kind of almost become almost all the way around. So it's kind of interesting. There's some, we could see the enhanced reflectivities there on the west side. And as this storm lifts up to the north, eventually making landfall somewhere near the North Carolina-South Carolina border, and as it lifts to the northeast, we're going to see this more enhanced, if you will, left side of the storm be spreading over eastern North Carolina and the coastal plain all the way back to the triangle. So it's in this enhanced reflectivity area where we think the greatest wind gusts will occur, the strongest wind gusts, the most damaging wind gusts, and that'll happen overnight tonight across our area, and the heaviest rain. Heavy rain could be found in any of this reflectivity that you see. So let me go ahead and try to put this in a stop it if I can, and I'll just call out here or point out that all of this right here, all that you see here, all of that is basically going to lift north and northeast and across our area, and as it does, that's why we're expecting 2 to 4 inches of rain and 4 to 6 along the I-95 corridor. So that is going to happen again during the nighttime hours. I do want to call your attention to that as we move in more locally. This area, let me see if I could do a watch fill. This whole this area here is a tornado watch. So that's going to be in effect through this evening. I suspect as we head through the evening hours, this will be expanded northward and perhaps a bit inland. So we'll watch for that as the evening progresses. And I will point out, let me switch to a different radar program here that zooms in a little bit closer, a little bit tighter to our area. Bear with me here as I drag things over to the right screen. And you can see this is certainly some of these cells are producing some interesting wind signatures. So, for instance, earlier, just a short time ago, we had a signature of some pretty gusty winds with some of these. Whoops, I am getting way ahead of myself there. We had some pretty interesting signatures of winds with this band of rain that extends from western Johnson County through Harnett. And just off the surface, I mean, 1,000 feet off the ground, the winds were blowing 50, 60 miles per hour. So if some of these winds can get drawn down to the surface, then we'd be looking at some gusty winds and perhaps some wind damage. So that's the thing we're going to be watching tonight. We're going to be watching the velocity. We're going to be watching storm relative velocity, and we're going to be looking for rotational signatures. But suffice it to say, these cells here will have the capability to put down some pockets of heavy rain. So we're talking rainfall rates of about a ½ inch to maybe 1 inch an hour with basically the cells that are over the region. Now, the good news is they're moving pretty quickly. So even though they have the capability of 1 inch an hour, they're not sitting and setting up over any one given area for very long. So, but this is just the start of it. If we look further to the south, we've got all this here yet to fall. So things are just getting going. If you at this point, I'd be pretty much wrapping up my preparations, securing any, last minute outdoor items, laying over the garbage can so the trash bins so that the wind doesn't do it, bringing in any outdoor furniture that you're afraid might get blown around, and that sort of thing. And again, the area we're most concerned about where this heavy rain, this enhanced area of reflectivity that will have the heaviest rain and strongest winds, we're talking again mainly east of the US 1 corridor, particularly along and east of I-95, where we think the worst of it is going to be tonight. All right, so yeah, here we are. It's time to wrap up whatever we're doing to get ready and to kind of hunker down at this point and ride it out through the overnight hours. All right, so let's kind of go through these slides one more time. I'm going to skip this because I just showed that. So in terms of when is that heavier banded activity going to lift up, this is a projection of wind speeds. This is from our official forecast, and I've been showing these throughout the day, and you can see by 8 p.m. we're going to see some of that enhanced wind with those inner bands moving up into the Wilmington region. Oops, I stepped ahead too fast. Bear with me. Oh, what happened to my PowerPoint? My PowerPoint just crashed. Unbelievable. Bear with me here 1 second. I apologize for that. It just completely crashed on me. So give me a second here to reload it. And I apologize. So let's see if we can get back to where we were. And let's see, while we're at it, let's see if the 5 o'clock did pop in here. I didn't have to do a thing. It got sucked into my PowerPoint automatically, and we can see here that it's still tropical storm as of 5 p.m., maximum sustained wind 70 miles per hour. So we were kind of curious if it was going to get upgraded to a hurricane, but that has not happened just yet. All right, so back to where we were before my slides crashed. Anyway, so by 11 p.m., we're going to see those basically 30 to 40, maybe 45 mile per hour wind gusts up toward Fayetteville, Clinton, maybe up to Goldsboro, just approaching Goldsboro around midnight. And then as we head into the overnight hour, that's when we're going to get into that period where I-95 corridor is going to see some of these 40 to 60 mile per hour winds. I know these numbers are a little bit lower than what I'm verbalizing here, but just rest assured that's just a nature of the process of our putting our winds together. But basically, we're expecting 40 to 60 in this general area, the coastal plain, I-95 corridor eastward, with 25, maybe 35 miles per hour back to the US 1 corridor. And then by 5 a.m., the northern coastal plain, northern I-95 corridor is getting those strongest winds. And then as we head into the daylight hours, that's when things really wind down. It's going to stay a little gusty across northeast North Carolina, eastern North Carolina, but for central, things will be improving pretty quickly during the morning hours for cleanup. All right, so when you add it all up, this is kind of the maximum wind gusts that we're expecting. So again, 40 to 60 generally along and east of I-95. Let's say 20 to 40 from the US 1 corridor to I-95, and then, a gust of 25, maybe 30 miles per hour as far west as the Triad. Now, it could gust a little bit higher with some of these thunderstorm and shallow top storm cells that I showed on radar a little earlier. So the Triad down to Wadesboro, you're not quite out of the woods. You could still have a gust maybe up to 35 miles per hour with one of these stronger cells. What about the rainfall forecast? So these graphics show 6-hour accumulations and the time that they end. So for instance, the one on the left is 6 hours from 8 p.m. tonight through 2 a.m. tonight. And then on the one on the right is what accumulates from 2 a.m. tonight through 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And you can see, that swath of heaviest rain is expected along and east of the I-95 corridor. And then by 2 p.m. Tuesday, we're only looking at light amounts because the center of the storm has pretty much moved away. All right, so when we're really little change with regard to this graphic, we've been showing this for the last couple of days, 4 to 6 inches, 30, 40 miles either side of I-95 with 2 to 4 pretty much everywhere else. All right, all that water's got to go somewhere, so minor to moderate flooding is expected, and you can see the dots are forecast points. So moderate is expected at Clayton, at Smithfield. Minor flooding is expected at Goldsboro and downstream. On the Tar River, we're expecting minor flooding at Tarboro and Fishing Creek and Enfield, minor flooding. As we look at those individual hydrographs, you could see Neuse River at Clayton will rise above flood stage Tuesday afternoon. Will crest at moderate at 14.4 on Wednesday. And at 13 feet, there's extensive flooding, which will close the Neuse River Greenway Trail. At Smithfield, the Neuse River will rise above flood stage Tuesday night and will crest in moderate just below major, just below 20 feet Wednesday night. Remember, at 20 feet, major flooding begins and cuts off water treatment plant access to the reservoir. All right, in the Neuse River, a little bit further downstream, you'll notice, look at the beginning of the crest is much, much later because it takes a while for that water to find its way down to Goldsboro. But we're thinking that flood stage on Friday, 19.3 feet will be the at least the crest right now. The forecast still doesn't go out far enough to show if it gets any higher or not, but that seems like it's leveling off right around there. So at 18 feet, when minor flood stage begins, water overflows the banks at the SR 1915 bridge and upstream of the US 117 bridge. And then finally, the Tar River at Tarboro will rise to 21.1 feet on Friday. At 19 feet, flood stage begins, and that's going to happen on Thursday. All right, so lastly, here's where we think the areas with the best chance to see tornadoes. Best chance in the orange, a decent chance to see tornadoes in the yellow, and although it can never be entirely ruled out, the areas in the gray, where right now we're not expecting them, but we'll be keeping our eyes on it. So that's pretty much it. That wraps up our briefing. I've already gone over all of this here, so I just want to mention again, just as a reminder, we'll be putting out little informational statements, graphics, neat stuff to follow along, especially on our social media. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter. Be sure to repost, reshare, retweet. YouTube, this recording here we're making will be posted, so you can share that as well. Definitely check out our website, and for our core partners, we're here 24/7, 365, and you're happy, and would be happy to take any calls. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to do so. So again, before we wrap this up, let's take one more look at the radar here. And we could see again, here's the area that we're concerned about. We're watching this line right here, this band that's right here. We're keeping an eye on that. That band there, could produce an isolated strong wind gust. But all the activity down here to the south, that's all going to be gradually lifting up north and moving across our area overnight tonight. All right. So with that, that wraps up our 5 p.m. Webinar.